So what if you could build an entire application just by describing it? I mean, no low-code platforms, no drag-and-drop interfaces, just you, an idea, and an AI that writes every single line of code for you. Well, today we're going to look at an experiment that did exactly that. But first, let's talk about something every single developer feels deep in their soul. That feeling of starting a new project and immediately having to write the same config files, the same setup scripts, the same basic structure again. It's like the Groundhog Day of coding, right? And that feeling has a name, the pain of boilerplate. It's all the necessary but totally uncreative work that you have to slog through before you can get to the real work, the fun part, the actual problem solving. It just eats up your time and drains your creative energy. I love this quote because it frames the problem perfectly. It's not just work, it's a tax on your most valuable resource, your time and your creativity. And what do we want to do with taxes? We want to reduce them, or, maybe even get rid of them completely. So this brings us to a really fascinating new idea. Imagine you could just skip all that. Instead of firing up your keyboard to tell the computer how to do something line by painful line, you just give it a high-level blueprint that describes what you want it to build. And this method actually has a name. It's called agentic AI development. The whole idea is pretty simple, actually. You have an autonomous AI agent that basically acts as your junior developer. You give it the big picture requirements, the spec, and it just gets to work, writing, organizing, and structuring the entire application all by itself. Okay, so to put this whole idea to the test, a project was set up with a pretty simple challenge. Build a command line to-do app. It's a classic starter project for human developers. But there was one very, very important rule. 100%. 100% of the code had to be generated by the AI. No human hands could touch the code files. No manual fixes, no tweaking the syntax. We're talking zero human intervention in the code itself. This quote really sums up the whole mission, right? Go straight from an idea to a working app and completely leapfrog all that manual boilerplate setup. So the big question is, did it actually work? Oh yeah, it absolutely did. Say hello to Todo App Plus. And this isn't just some theoretical concept. It's a real working command line application. It's the proof in the pudding that this whole thing is actually possible. And get this, it wasn't some flimsy, barely working program. The AI built a surprisingly feature-rich app. I mean, you can add tasks with due dates and tags, you can list everything, you can search, filter, and even sort your tasks. This is a genuinely useful tool. Let's kind of walk through it. So first thing, let's add a new task. Prepare project proposal. And we can even throw in some details, like a due date, set it to high priority, and add a few relevant tags. And boom, just like you'd expect from any good app, you get a clear confirmation. Task added successfully with ID 1. It's simple, it's clean, and it works. All right, so the task is in the system. Now let's use the list command to make sure it's actually there and see what it looks like. And there it is. Look at that. The AI didn't just spit out the data. It organized everything into a clean, formatted table. It shows the ID, the title, the status, due date, priority, and all the tags. Honestly, for an app generated entirely by an AI, that is remarkably polished. So seeing this result is pretty amazing. But it obviously brings up the biggest question of all. How? How on earth does an AI go from a simple request to a fully structured working application like this? Well, the process is actually pretty straightforward. It's all driven by that specification file, or spec. First, a human developer defines the vision, what the app should do, what features it needs, in that high-level spec. Then, the AI agent reads it, interprets it, and gets to work, generating all the Python code file by file. And the result? A complete, runnable application. Now, for anyone wondering about the tools behind the magic, the project used a large language model called Qwen to act as the AI agent. And it was guided by a framework called Spec-Kit Plus, which is basically designed to help the AI understand what the developer wants from the spec file. And this right here, this is maybe the most impressive part. The AI didn't just generate one giant, messy script. It actually structured the application logically. It created separate files for the data model, for the storage logic, for the user interface, and for the main entry point. I mean, this is a clean, modular architecture that any human developer would immediately recognize and appreciate. So an experiment like this works. What does that actually mean for the future of building software?
Is this the beginning of the end for coders?
Probably not the end, but it definitely signals a massive shift. You can see it here. The developer's role starts to evolve. Your focus moves away from the low-level, nitty-gritty implementation details and moves toward high-level design and architecture. You become the architect, and the AI becomes your incredibly fast construction crew. And remember, the To-Do app is really just the proof of concept. The real breakthrough here is the power of being fully spec-driven. This experiment proves that if you can create a well-defined blueprint, an AI can translate that directly into a well-built application. And that leaves us with a pretty wild question to think about. If an AI can take our high-level designs and build robust applications, what does that really mean for the next generation of software development? Is the future of coding less about writing the code and more about perfectly designing the instructions? It's going to be fascinating to see.